The WHO says Christmas gatherings need to be cancelled in order to save lives from rising coronavirus cases. Omicron takes over from Delta as the most prevalent strain of COVID-19 in the US. Eastern Europe united. Poland and Lithuania show support for Ukraine amid a Russian troop buildup near the Ukrainian border.
Millions across Europe are hoping for a festive time this weekend with family and friends, but for the second year running, this could be in doubt. The World Health Organization is recommending cancelling events over the holiday period in the light of growing cases of the Omicron variant of coronavirus worldwide. It's a message few want to hear.
All of us are sick of this pandemic. All of us want to spend time with friends and family. But an event cancelled is better than a life cancelled. It's better to cancel now and celebrate later than to celebrate now and grieve later. None of us want to be here again in 12 months' time.
But for most governments, the focus is on booster campaigns or considering possible lockdowns. The Netherlands is already in one of those. Switzerland has announced tight new COVID measures from December the 20th, including making working from home mandatory for all those who can.
To be honest, I find it a bit difficult with the topic of vaccination. Now you're vaccinated and have the feeling that it's good, but somehow you notice that it still doesn't help that much.
In Germany, federal and state governments are considering contact restrictions after Christmas, even for the vaccinated and recovering individuals.
For example, you can reduce the size of groups. In Bavaria, they have already closed bars and clubs for the upcoming days and weeks to avoid hotspots and super-spreading events.
Meanwhile, Germany's new Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, says the country will reach its target of offering booster shots to at least 30 million citizens by the end of the year.
Omicron is now the dominant COVID-19 variant in the US, and it has people concerned ahead of the holidays. Most states have cases confirmed, with Florida and Washington the current hotspots.
I think I'm glad to see that people are getting tests if they're going to travel. I assume that's part of the reason why they're doing it with the upcoming holidays, but it's also probably because a lot of people are starting to not feel very well with the new Omicron variant. So it's disappointing and it's mixed emotions.
There is a speculation the US is headed for lockdown, with President Joe Biden due to make a speech on Omicron later on Tuesday.
This is not a speech about locking the country down. This is a speech outlining and being direct and clear with the American people about the benefits of being vaccinated, the steps we're going to take to increase access and to increase testing, and the risks posed to unvaccinated individuals.
The top pandemic advisor, Anthony Fauci, is certainly on message.
Is if we do what we've been recommending very repetitively and intensively: vaccination, booster, mitigation with masks in congregate settings, and over time we feel confident that we will get this under control.
US experts say vaccinations cannot protect completely against infection, but can reduce hospitalizations and deaths.
Poland and Lithuania has joined Ukraine in a call for stronger Western sanctions against Moscow. This comes amid a Russian troop build-up near the Ukrainian border, fueling fears of an invasion possibly as early as next year. The leaders met with President Volodymyr Zelensky in a show of support in the face of what they describe as ongoing aggression against Ukraine. Together, the premiers signed a joint treaty aimed at prioritising their common security and economic interests. Zelensky said, "Our shared task is to contain the threat, to protect Europe from aggressive Russian policy." Today, Ukraine, Poland and Lithuania are at the forefront of this containment. US intelligence officials say Russia has amassed 70,000 troops near its border with Ukraine, while US President Joe Biden has already warned that Russia would face severe consequences if Moscow attacked its neighbour. The Kremlin continues to deny any plan of attack, but says it will respond in kind if NATO deploys missiles capable of reaching Russia in a few minutes.
Kosovo has reached a deal to let 300 of its jail cells to Denmark at an annual fee of €15 million to ease overcrowding in the Scandinavian country's prisons. The inmates sent to Kosovo will be foreign nationals subject to deportation after serving their sentences. Recently, the prison population in Denmark has jumped nearly 20%. The jury has begun its deliberations in Galen Maxwell's sex trafficking trial in New York. The prosecution earlier closed its arguments calling the girlfriend of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein a sophisticated predator. The defense insists Maxwell is being made a scapegoat for the crimes of the late Epstein, who killed himself in prison. A verdict is expected before Christmas.
Complete carnage. That's how the Red Cross described the devastating scenes in the Philippines after Super Typhoon Rai ravaged the country's southern and central regions, killing at least 375 people and injuring hundreds more. Hitting the islands with speeds up to 195 kilometres per hour, the storm toppled concrete poles, uprooted trees and wiped out entire villages. Some victims have expressed their frustration at the government's lack of response to the disaster.
We paid big taxes when we were working, but now they can't help us.
However, President Rodrigo Duterte promised to release over €35 million to assist the nation's recovery on Saturday. Thousands of military, coast guards and fire personnel have been deployed to the worst affected areas.
Orbiting high above Earth, Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa, his producer and a Russian cosmonaut bid farewell to the crew of the International Space Station after spending 12 days there. The trip marks the first self-paid tourist visit to the spacecraft since 2009 and is mooted to a cost a staggering $80 million.
And there you see it, undocking.
Mr. Maezawa said that once you're in space, you realize how much it's worth by having this amazing experience. He also deflected criticism that the money could have been spent on worthier causes back on Earth, saying that those who criticize his trip have never been to space. The capsule made a soft landing in the steppes of Kazakhstan. Mr. Maezawa, who made his fortune in the fashion industry, has also booked a flyby around the moon with Elon Musk's Starship. That trip is likely to happen in 2023. Rafael Nadal has tested positive for COVID-19 after playing in the Mubadala tournament in Abu Dhabi, bringing into doubt his participation in the Australian Open in January. With this tweet, he has announced that he has COVID-19. It reads, "I wanted to announce that on my return home from the Abu Dhabi tournament, I've tested positive for COVID via a PCR test that was carried out on my arrival in Spain." After months out from a foot injury, Rafa Nadal lost to Britain's Andy Murray in Abu Dhabi. He says that he has unpleasant moments with the virus, but hopes to improve little by little.